James, now you need to.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Tech for a Better Planet. My name is James Hardcastle, and I'm with IUCN's Global Protected Areas Program, based here in Switzerland. And it's my honor to moderate the webinar today for you all. And I'd like to thank Huawei for their initiative in supporting and promoting this event. As we will hear from our speakers, today is World Environment Day. And to mark this day, we are offering this webinar discussion specifically on how technology can help us secure our natural environment for a better planet. So the webinar will explore how innovative digital technologies can minimize environmental impacts and risks and create new opportunities to promote sustainable development for our planet's ecosystems. So we've compiled a set of experts from different organizations around the world, and indeed many different languages and from 6 continents to share their views. So let me please introduce the agenda for our webinar. We will run today for 90 minutes and we aim to keep everything on time. To open, we have very pleased to have the Acting Director General of the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, Dr. Gretel Aguilar. And then we have Huawei's Director of Corporate Sustainable Development Committee. And jointly, they will provide some opening remarks to set the scene for our webinar today. We then have representatives from the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, from the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, and Huawei as well, who will share their points of view about information and communications technology, which is ICT in the general parlance, share their views on climate change, ICT for climate change. After that, we'll have a second session, which will invite Nature Seychelles, the Swiss-based Porini Foundation, the Rainforest Connection, and Beijing Normal University to interpret their experiences for us about ICT for nature conservation. So I'll ask, please, all of our speakers today to try and avoid the acronyms. Keep your tech interpretations simple. We want this to be accessible for all. So without further ado, let's get into the speeches. And then at the end, we'll have also a chance for a panel discussion. So firstly, I'd like to warmly invite Dr. Gretel Aguilar of IUCN. Dr. Aguilar is a trained environmental lawyer, has extensive experience in conservation and sustainable development, including working, aside from IUCN, with the United Nations Environment and several Central American governments. So please, Dr. Aguilar, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, James, and good morning. It is a privilege for me to be with all of you today. But let me start by thanking Huawei for bringing us together to discuss this very important subject, technology for a better planet. Before I begin, I wish everyone safety and health in these challenging times. No doubt, COVID-19 pandemic is a global health crisis that is impacting the way we live in many ways. But as we prepare to go back to the new normal, we can rebuild smarter. And we can work together now to ensure and to follow a thoughtfulness sustainable path where technology can provide an opportunity to make a better planet. Today, we celebrate the World Environment Day, World Environment Day 2020, the International Day for Environmental Action, under the slogan, Time for Nature. We need to implement concrete actions that achieve truly sustainable and inclusive development. And it is here where technology can be a big ally. IUCN knows this very well, which is why we made advancing knowledge, learning, innovation, and technology one of the themes at the incoming IUCN World Conservation Congress that will be taking place in Marseille in January 2021. And I hope truly to see you all attending our Congress. Because part of our Congress, let me share with you, that is going to be taking place in forms of webinars also, and using virtualization methods. At Congress, IUCN aims to show how innovative digital technologies can minimize environmental impacts and risk in the real world, and will deeply welcome collaboration with technology leaders like Huawei, whose knowledge can play a key role in tackling global environmental issues. Indeed, global challenges need global responses, and I am so glad to see so many leaders here today from all over the world, leaders from China, from Switzerland, from Seychelles, and from many other countries. Our planet is under pressure. That is something that we know. Our rapid industrial development, including thirst for technology, has depleted our forests and oceans, causing biodiversity and climate crisis. However, technology can be part of the solution and can help solve global challenges if used correctly. I wish to frame today's sessions by speaking about 3 principles technology should adhere to: accessibility, connectivity, and accountability in decision-making. First, let me begin with accessibility. Who can use technology? Who can benefit? How we can ensure people have tools and infrastructure to access technological solutions they need. For example, access to telecommunications, networks, and digital infrastructure like internet, allowing women and remote communities to find information and opportunities to better their lives. IUCN shares Huawei vision of technology for everyone and recognizes its mission of giving people access to networks and development opportunities that should be available to everyone in the world, in particular to women and to communities. For example, IUCN Commission on Education and Communications operates a program called TECH4ALL, which includes a program on digital access to support wider environmental education worldwide. Second principle is connectivity. Focus on bringing people, ideas, and solutions together from all over the world. Technology can amplify positive impacts if we use it to connect us. For example, let me give you another example. IUCN and members, including the Nature Conservancy and Coral Triangle Center, support women's environmental networks across countries in the Pacific Ocean, like Melanesia, Indonesia, Solomon Islands, and Australia. This allows women from dozens of communities to share stories, videos, and discuss common issues. They use technology to build their knowledge and support each other across the vast ocean. Third principle is accountability. We rely on all leaders in all sectors to take responsible decisions, and technology ensures leaders keep to promises and deliver best outcomes for people. For example, IUCN manages a standard for protected areas around the world, called Green List of Protected and Conserved Areas. To get on the Green List, you must prove that your protected areas, your national parks, have good governance, transparent leadership, and effective management. When implementing this Green List standard, technology innovations are an important ally. For example, software to quickly analyze huge amounts of survey information on how well parks are run allow us to verify some of these practices. Using this technology also means that parks managers in countries like China, Switzerland, Colombia, Kenya, Costa Rica are accountable to those who live in, use, and enjoy the benefits of protected areas bring. Using appropriate technology to achieve natural resources conservation and sustainable development is crucial to achieve good results for the benefit of people and the environment. We urgently need to use technology to inform better decisions with more accountability that will lead to policies for a better planet. As an organization, IUCN's vision is to achieve a just world that values and conserves nature. We harness the experience, resources, and reach of more than 1,400 member organizations, including governments, non-government organizations, and indigenous peoples organizations, and the input of more of 16,000 experts in 6 commissions. This diversity and vast experience makes IUCN the perfect ally for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Science and data underpins the success of our actions, policies, and standards. And technology is a key step to unlocking the potential we have to deliver informed decisions and achieve inclusive sustainability. Today's speakers will give exciting examples of these 3 technology principles for climate and for nature conservation. Once more, allow me to thank all of you for being here, and let me also thank you for taking the time to deepen our impact and speed up our response to the world's environmental crisis. We must use technology well. It is important for all of us, around the planet, to count with technology as an ally. Technology can help us to achieve many of the commitments that the governments are about to make. This year was going to be the super year. Now we are working hard to have all those events, the Convention on Biological Diversity Conference of the Parties will happen in 2021. The IUCN Congress will happen in 2021. The big Conference of the Parties for Oceans will happen in 2021. We are ready, but we need to have technology with us. We need to use technology to help governments to take assertive decisions that will help us to conserve the planet. We need technology to support communities, and we need technology to allow women to communicate, to allow society to be even a more connected society. This pandemic shows us that we are all connected, that no matter where we are, like today in this webinar, we are people from all over the world, and we are connected. So let's use technology to achieve conservation of natural resources. Let's use technology to continue be connected for the well-being of this planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aguilar, for such a welcoming and inspiring opening speech. Dr. Aguilar has shared principles that IUCN promotes, and especially accessibility to technology, technology for connectivity, and technology for decision-making and accountability in that decision-making. She also gave some nice impactful examples, including about the role of women in using technology and accessing technology. So let's see how our other speakers reference these principles during the event. So now let's move to our second opening speaker, and let's welcome Mr. Tao Jingwen. Mr. Tao is Huawei Director of the Board and Director of the Corporate Sustainable Development Committee. He will share Huawei's environmental protection strategy, management, and key actions. So please allow me to hand over to Mr. Tao.
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation from IUCN. On behalf of Huawei, I am very honored to be here today to share with you the topic of tech for a better planet. Huawei is a leading global provider of ICT infrastructure. Our vision is to bring digital to every person, home, and organization for a fully connected, intelligent world. We always adhere to customer-centric innovation and provide customers with leading green products and solutions. Speaking of Huawei's environmental protection philosophy, we believe that technology is not against nature, but a part of nature. ICT will promote economic prosperity and can also make our environment more beautiful. tech for a better planet. This is our belief and also is our promise which we have made in the past, now, and future. As a responsible corporate citizen, environmental protection has been incorporated into Huawei's sustainable development strategy. Huawei has developed a sustainability strategy in line with United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. We focus on security, trustworthiness, digital inclusion, environmental protection, as well as healthy and harmonious ecosystem, among which environmental protection is one of our top 4 sustainable development strategies. In terms of environmental protection, on the one hand, through ICT, Huawei focuses on reducing carbon emissions, accelerating renewable energy, striving towards a circular economy, and ICT-based natural resources conservation. We have been working hard to build innovative and leading green products and solutions to help various industries save energy and reduce emissions. In addition, we keep improving the resource utilization efficiency in production, manufacturing, and logistics, and try to build an environmentally friendly operation system. In addition, we work with our partners to leverage ICT to protect natural resources in a more efficient manner. To facilitate effective strategy execution, we have established a systematic management system. At the group level, Huawei has established a Corporate Sustainable Development Committee. I am the company's Sustainable Development Officer and report directly to the Board of Directors. Huawei has always been committed to energy-saving technology innovation from multiple dimensions, such as architecture, process, and materials, to continuously improve product energy efficiency and reduce carbon emissions. Here, I will cite 3 examples. In terms of wireless domain, Huawei has launched a future-proof full outdoor 5G solution. Huawei is the world's first vendor to reduce an average base station's power consumption from 3,000 watts to less than 500 watts during 2G, 3G, and 4G development. 5G offers features such as high speed, low latency, and big capacity while presenting new challenges of power consumption. With the full outdoor modular design, a pole can be used to mount all wireless devices, power supply devices, and microwave devices outdoors. Compared with the traditional site solution, this solution does not require air conditioners, which can reduce the site's power consumption by at least 40%. In the optical transport field, traditional WDM devices require a large number of optical fibers to connect to each other in the equipment room, which consumes much energy and a large amount of equipment room space. Huawei's unique optical fiber printing technology can print 1,000 optical fibers into an A4 paper-sized optical panel. Now, only one device is required to replace 9 traditional devices, which reduces the overall power consumption by 60%. In terms of data centers, in particular, AI-powered computing. In 2019, Huawei launched the industry's first full liquid cooling AI cluster. The cluster not only uses the liquid cooling mode for the cabinet, but also implements liquid cooling at the board level. With the same 256 pflops computing power, a traditional air-cooled cluster requires 86 cabinets, while an Atlas 900 cluster requires only 16 cabinets and reduces power consumption by 60%. Based on ICT, Huawei works with partners to accelerate the large-scale application of renewable energies. By integrating information technology and photovoltaic technology, we have improved the efficiency of photovoltaic power generation and converted each joule of solar energy into more photovoltaic power. Since 2013, we have contributed to more than 180 billion kilowatts-hour of solar power to the world, equivalent to a reduction of more than 108 million tons of carbon emissions and more than 200 million trees. On the one hand, we continuously introduce renewable energies into our operations and build PV power plants on our campus. On the other hand, we actively promote the wide application of smart PV in the world to bring clean electricity to millions of households. In China, we have built the first PV plant in our southern factory in Dongguan. It generates 18 million kilowatt-hour of electricity each year and contributes 10% of the factory's electricity consumption. In Saudi Arabia, we have worked with partners to build the Sakaka 300 megawatt PV plant, which supplies power to 45,000 households every year and reduces carbon emissions by 430,000 tons. In Argentina, we worked with partners to build a 300 megawatt PV plant in Gauchari, which generates about 660 million kilowatts-hour of electricity per year that provides sufficient clean electricity for 160,000 households. In terms of ICT conserving the natural resources, Rainforest Connection is a non-profit organization dedicated to protecting the rainforest through technologies. In 2019, Huawei cooperated with RFCX. Based on the data analysis capability of Huawei Cloud and our smart devices, the noise detection precision of chainsaws increased to 96%, which greatly improves the work efficiency of forest rangers. The solution has been implemented in 10 countries and regions, where more than 2,500 square kilometers of rainforests are protected. In 2020, we plan to extend the experience to more countries, protecting over 6,000 square kilometers. In terms of ICT helping protect natural resources and biodiversity, we are working with Beijing Normal University and the China Representative Office of World Conservation Union to build an integrated surveillance system for Northeast Tiger and Leopard National Park. With the deployment of ICT products and solutions, the efficiency of data collection, transmission, storage, and analysis has been greatly improved. In the first phase, Huawei and our partners jointly built a 700 MHz trunking solution, which covered more than 5,000 square kilometers. Based on this network, the image of infrared camera can be transmitted in real time, and the forest protectors can make video calls. In addition, the intelligent video image analysis of Huawei Cloud can quickly identify and protect wild species such as tigers and leopards. In 2019, Huawei officially launched TECH4ALL program, one of which is to protect the environment. Huawei has never stopped making efforts to protect the environment. We sincerely are open and are willing to cooperate with governments, enterprises, and NGOs, as well as other organizations. Welcome to join us in our action plan to build a better environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, Mr. Tao, for sharing this presentation. We can see that environmental protection is one of the key corporate sustainability strategies of Huawei. And Huawei has been investing in research and development to maximize the potential of technology for a better planet. We're going to hear from some of those examples, the Rainforest Connection and the Tiger research, later on in the webinar. We really hope that Huawei can continue to provide this kind of innovative products and solutions and help more organizations, more industries, as well as maintain their own commitment to low impact and low carbon technologies. So thanks again, Mr. Tao. For the webinar, I'd like to move into our first session now, which is ICT technology for climate change. And ICT and technology has significant potential to promote economic prosperity, bring positive benefits and environmental benefits if we use and develop them appropriately. And we really hope that the ICT integration into more and more industries will help us drastically reduce carbon emissions. So to begin our session, I'd like to welcome Daniel Turner. And Daniel Turner is the Global Head of Corporate Engagement and Reporter Services of the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP. So Daniel joined CDP way back in 2003 and has been instrumental in establishing CDP's annual disclosure and reporting cycle as standard business practice. So back to Dr. Aguilar's principles of accountability, transparency, and decision-making. With over 15 years sustainability experience, Daniel is responsible for CDP's global engagement strategy with thousands of companies. So over to you, Daniel. Let's hear your views on climate change challenges and expectations for the ICT industry.
Right, thank you very much for the introduction, James. It's a pleasure to be here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'd like to talk today just a bit about CDP's role in this space and how the data can really enable this transition. I've got a few slides to go through, just a little bit of background on CDP for those not familiar with us, and then really the call to action for the sector, which is around science-based targets and RE100. So just in case you're not aware, CDP is a global environmental not-for-profit working to secure a thriving economy that works for people and planet. Essentially, our tagline is disclosure, insight, and action. And really, the disclosure piece is all about transparency, putting this data, environmental data, but also data about water stewardship, about the use of forest commodities, out into the markets so that the stakeholders, whether it be investors, customers, suppliers, the public at large, other NGOs, academics, this data is there available for people to use. We want to see analysis on it. We want to see tools coming out of the back of it. And really that's the insight piece, the learning that comes from this data being available. It's in an objective kind of standardized format. So it's easy for those stakeholders to make the comparisons and compare benchmark companies against each other. So that learning piece is really critical. You understand what the risks are for your company, what the opportunities are, and what you should really be doing, learning from your peers. That drives what we want to see, hopefully, the action piece. It's all about making investments into projects, changing your strategy to be more sustainable. So it's looking towards that future, setting in place governance measures and so on. So we are the world's largest comprehensive collection of self-reported data. And really we want that network of investors, purchasers and policymakers to use this data and insights to make better informed decisions. Just in terms of the growth of CDP over the years, as you said in my introduction, I've been there a long time. So right at the start, it was me who phoned pretty much every company that responded, got them to engage. We had about 250 companies that first year. Last year, we had nearly 8,500 companies responding. And the biggest jump in responses we saw was between 2018 and 2019. So that shows that the level of engagement has just kept increasing. The voice from the investor community has grown stronger and stronger, asking for this data. And with the addition of the supply chain work, which I'll touch on in a minute, that's bringing this the data collection out to more people, which gives more access via that. It's not quite big data yet, but that's what we want that as a sort of how people can engage with this data. What happens to the data once it's been reported, once it's been submitted by the companies? Essentially goes in many different directions to many different groups of actors, but primarily it goes to the financial markets. So it's in Bloomberg, it's in MSCI, it's in Sustainalytics, it's in all these platforms, often packaged up with other data, but it's one of the foundation pieces. But it also goes to policy initiatives and civil society. So we're very closely connected with TCFD. We aligned our questionnaire completely to the TCFD recommendations. It goes to the Climate Action 100 project. We work with cities. We're very connected with the C40 program. So the data goes out there into the ecosystem to help drive this decision making. Mentioned supply chain. That's a really significant piece, especially for the ICT sector. Often a lot of the largest source of the emissions is not in the direct operations, it's out in the supply chain, up and down the value chain. For ICT and telcos, that ratio is around 6:1, about 6 times the amount of emissions are out in the scope 3 as opposed to direct operations. So that engagement with the supply chain is really, really critical. CDP been working with the ICT sector for a while. The example companies I show are more specifically the telco sector, but we have a number of members we work with on the ICT side as well, more broadly. We're very proud to be working with GSMA, and they joined our supply chain program this year along with these other telcos you can see there, and that's really driving out the request for more information to have as much collected as possible directly from those companies so they can really be aware of what the suppliers are doing and to drive action down the supply chain. That helps them understand the impact, and they really want to see progress from their suppliers towards setting targets. And they want them to use renewable energy, and I'll touch on that in a bit more. In terms of collaboration with GSMA, in May, we ran a series of webinars for telcos and Chinese suppliers, particularly how to set SBTs. And we've got another series on those coming up throughout June, working with GSMA and the JAC for industrial suppliers. So this is really, really key to getting this data out there and collecting more of it in that objective, comparable format. Science-based targets, if you're looking for what a company in the ICT sector should be doing, they should be joining their colleagues who have already committed to science-based targets. So as it stands, these are figures hot off the press. 879 companies globally have committed to set a science-based target. Around 377, so nearly 400, have had those targets approved. Because the SBTI has been going on for a little while, we wanted to see more ambition. And so the most recent campaign is the 1.5 degrees campaign. It is, if you're going to have a science-based target, or if you're going to have a net zero commitment, we really encourage you to join this campaign, put your voice to it, use your weight within the industry, and to work with your peers and your suppliers. This 1.5 degree pathway is really the as you see the hashtag there, it's the only future we have. We really want to drive that. We have a number of companies here, telcos, who've made that commitment already. We really want to see more doing that. 210 companies have, and this is going to be the new normal. This is what a proper target should look like. It should be aligned with that 1.5 degree future. One of the main hurdles to that in the last couple of years has been that there wasn't a methodology specifically for ICT sector. And then the ITU, working with GSMA and GESI, 3 really kind of powerful organizations there who have lots of leverage between them across the industry, collaborated to get together some guidance that was specifically for the ICT sector, how they should go about setting a science-based target. It touches on mobile telecoms networks, fixed telecoms networks, data center operators, and equipment manufacturers. So it's really the foundation, the cornerstone piece of what those companies will need to work through in order to in order to be able to understand what's required to set these targets. So we're very proud to be working alongside these organizations to bring this work forwards. So that's the first call to action. It's get on board with the 1.5 degree campaign and set that target. The next thing we would say, the key thing that the industry can really drive across the ITC space is the renewable energy 100% commitment. So RE100 is the tag for that. We have currently 235 companies, again a few examples there from the telco sector, that have made that commitment. We appreciate in some places around the world this is quite a tall order. There just isn't the infrastructure from the energy network to actually currently deliver 100% renewable energy. And so that's where the power of the industry to really lobby and demand change in the energy infrastructure. You can generate your own electricity, sure, that's one way to work towards it, and we definitely encourage that. But I think the collective power of the industry to really demand the way the energy network, the energy system delivers power to everyone is really key, and that's the leverage that big industry has. So I'll finish with just a few bullet points here, just about what the renewable energy expectations would be for the ICT sector. I think firstly, if you're unfamiliar with RE100, please go and check out the website, find out more about it, what's involved. But we want to prioritize that local supply on the same grid as the company's demand. Use impactful procurement methods, public power purchase agreements, or self-generation. There's plenty of examples. And as I mentioned, it's really about advocating for change with the utilities, with elected local officials, with regulators, so that it is possible for industry to have 100% renewable energy. Collaborate with your peers as well. It's not about looking out for number one. We're all in this together. I think as the connection piece that was mentioned earlier, everyone's in this together. So I think this is really should be a driver for how that can manifest itself. It's really pushing for that renewable energy to be the primary driver. I think that's pretty much it for me. Very happy to have had the opportunity to push this work forward. But yeah, we'll just leave you with those two things. It's three things maybe. Disclose to CDP if you're not already. Get your data into that ecosystem. Be transparent. Consider joining that 1.5 degree science-based target campaign, and then look into the renewable energy going as high a percentage as you can. Ideally 100%, but if not 100, then as high as you can. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to everyone today.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you so much. That was really right on the message. And I'll just reiterate a couple of the points. RE100 website, visit it, no? Disclosure, transparency, getting information into the public domain and then using it, and the call for science-based targets. And I think this leads us very well to our next presentation from Dr. Bilal Jamousi. Dr. Bilal Jamousi is with the International Telecommunications Union, and he's the chief of the Study Groups Department and works with the Standardization Bureau. Dr. Jamousi has led the coordination of the Bureau's standards-making activities into this new era, characterized by a need for increased collaboration amongst the sectors. So please, Dr. Jamousi, let us hear your views on the role of ICT for climate change action. Over to you.
Thank you very much, James, and greetings to all the participants, and thanks to Huawei, one of our sector members in the ITU, for organizing this webinar today. The ITU is a unique platform for bringing governments, private sector, and academia to, among other things, develop international standards. And it's a pleasure today to share with you some of the work that is going on in the ITU in terms of the climate action with ICT. Let me first start by indicating that today the ICT sector accounts for about 2% of the global emission. It can, at the same time, help reduce the emission of other sectors to an estimated 15%, according to a Nature publication. But if we look forward to 2030, the ICT sector could increase consumption of energy in the best case to 8% and worst case to 20%. So with those predictions, we have a study group in ITU called Study Group 5, looking at how we can reduce the emission of the ICT sector, and at the same time, how ICT could be used to reduce the emission of the other sectors. So in this presentation, I will walk you through some of the work that is being done by ITU in this journey. First of all, in terms of the frontier technologies and how these can address global challenges such as climate change. We have a number of frontier technologies such as the artificial intelligence, machine learning and AI. And there are examples where AI and machine learning could be used to predict how to best optimize data centers, for example. Data centers are known to be one of the large consumers of electricity. AI could also be applied in other sectors, for example, in transportation. How do we optimize the road traffic by using techniques in engine idling of automotive industry, in better traffic flow, things like that. Another frontier technology is the Internet of Things. And with the Internet of Things, we can essentially twin the physical infrastructure. We can have a digital image of the physical infrastructure. And through these sensors and actuators and Internet of Things, we can have a much better collection of data and a much better control of the physical infrastructure. And with that, we can achieve a much larger reduction in electricity consumption or energy consumption. For example, in better managing buildings and having smart buildings and infrastructure. A third example is the use of the fish robots in detecting and monitoring the ocean pollution level and status of the ocean. Finally, many of you heard that this year is the year of IMT 2020, which is the 5G network. And the 5G network is bringing three new things, new dimensions to the industry. Of course, more broadband, but also massive connectivity. So these Internet of Things that I was talking about are much easier connected through the 5G network because it was designed with that in mind. And it also provides for a very low latency, which allows us to have remote control of many devices. It could be telemedicine, it could be autonomous driving, it could be many new technologies enabled by 5G that are not possible without it. And those new technologies are a way to save energy consumption in other sectors. Now, focusing on the ICT sector itself, ITU is working on helping the ICT sector itself move towards a carbon neutral path. I mentioned our study group 5 on environment, climate change, and circular economy. This is a very active group developing international standards with governments, private sector, and academia. We also have a focus group, which is open to non-members of the ITU, and is looking at the research and pre-standard work for the use of artificial intelligence for energy efficiency. We're working on raising awareness on international events and reports, such as today's event. And a topic that was mentioned a couple of times before me is the importance of collaboration. And ITU works in a very collaborative manner, not only with UN organizations, but other organizations that were presented today. Let's look at standards helping the green transition. Data centers are known to be quite heavy consumers of electricity and energy. And so one of the focused activity in Study Group 5 is on the data center infrastructure management system based on big data and AI. So here, how can we use the data that is coming from the data center itself to be able to predict automatically and better manage the infrastructure of the data center? And how do we decrease the overall system cost and increase its efficiency? And this is the topic of one of our standards that was recently published. Other standards that are available and publicly available and free to download on our website is a number of smart management systems for the telecom sites. So this is a recommendation specific on how to make smart management of telecom sites, a smart management of the data center, and a smart management of the telecommunication rooms themselves. And the combination of these smart management standards allow us to achieve a green transition, decrease the carbon emission, increase the energy efficiency, and extend the product life while reducing the cost of the solution. In addition, we're looking at helping the ICT sector reduce its greenhouse gas emission. And in order to achieve that, we have to have a common methodology of assessing the environmental impact of ICT. So we have those methodologies. There are published standards that provide the methodology for calculating the ICT sector footprint with respect to the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions, and the methodology for defining greenhouse gas emission budgets for the ICT, considering this 2 degrees lower trajectory. Then we have the GHG emission trajectory for the ICT sector compatible with the UNFCCC Paris Agreement. And here we have a recommendation standard, an international standard called the L1450 on the greenhouse gas emission trajectory for the ICT sector compatible with the UNFCCC Paris Agreement. And this provides us with a detailed trajectory of the GHG emissions for global ICT sector and subsectors that are quantified for years 2015 and the estimates for 2020, 2025, and 2030. And then the next step is to have the guidance to operators and mobile and fixed networks, as well as data centers for setting that 1.5 aligned targets. And again, here the recommendation or international standard L1470 is used to support the operators and data center owners in setting science-based targets for greenhouse gas emission according to the decarbonization pathways described in detail in this recommendation. Next, we look at the ongoing standards work. This is not yet published, but it is under discussion by the Study Group 5 with governments, private sector, and academia in 3 dimensions. One is the energy efficiency and smart energy. We're looking at the energy efficiency metrics and measurement methodology for data storage, servers, and 5G base stations. The energy saving technologies and best practice for the 5G radio access network equipment, and the energy efficiency and slicing of the 5G network. Essentially, being able to use the 5G network in multiple services, multiple virtual networks, if you will. The next dimension is the circular economy, including e-waste. So we're looking at the environmental impact of architecture solutions with regards to end of life and circular economy. And the third dimension is the climate change. We have a report on the decarbonization strategies and GHG emission reductions enabled by actual implementation of ICT projects. In addition to the study group work, I mentioned the focus group, which is an open platform looking at the environmental efficiency of AI and other emerging technologies, called Focus Group on AI for EE. And it is the first really global platform dedicated to studying the requirements, the assessment and measurement, and the implementation of AI and other emerging technologies to ensure environmental efficiency. So we have a call for everyone to join this open platform to really further develop AI and other emerging technologies for energy efficiency. Finally, I would like to reiterate the availability of this report called the Frontier Technologies to Protect the Environment and Tackle Climate Change. This is developed in collaboration with about 10 other UN agencies. It is publicly available on our website. It is free to download. And it is looking at frontier technologies as key enablers for cities to become smarter, more sustainable, and environmentally resilient. And keep in mind the environmental aspect of frontier technologies are often overlooked. So we really would like to use this opportunity to make a call for everyone to consider this report and use a frontier technology in this space. With that, I'd like to thank you very much and invite you to be part of this journey, use the reports and standards that are available, and participate in the elaboration and development of future international standards. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jamousi. That was a really interesting presentation. And in summary, I'd like to just reiterate that the Frontier Technologies for the Environment report is available. It sums up the work of many UN agencies. It's something that as IUCN would also support and encourage you to download, to read, and to think about how you can apply this. The principles and the standards that we've heard from Dr. Aguilar and Dr. Jamousi, also illustrated by Daniel, are very well illustrated here. And we really need to use what is already there. The ITU have standards. We have a lot of information already available about how to use the technology that exists as a tool for better planetary sustainable development. So we need to use it well, use it right, and bring the benefits to everybody. And in this line, I'd like to now move to our next speaker. I'd like to invite Monsieur Michel Fraise. For the last part of this session, Michel is the Chief Technical Officer of Huawei Digital Power product line, and he has over 30 years of experience dealing with the IT and the telecom power industry. So Michel, the floor is yours to share your thoughts on how key technologies can help reduce carbon emissions for different industries. Thanks, Michel.
Thank you, James. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to this worldwide attendees to this webinar. We represent today this digital power business unit from Huawei, where our target is to offer green power to telecom networks, data centers, solar farms, etc. The first thing I would like to do is the energy infrastructure can provide green power to the digital world. Today, with the help of sensors and IoTs, everything can be sensed. Every equipment can be sensed. All these sensors and IoTs, they're connected. We can gather data, and all this data can be analyzed, processed, and with the help of artificial intelligence, they can make things more efficient and greener. So if we look at the Huawei digital power product line, we are committed to clean power supply and efficient power use. The first segment we are working on is smart PV. It's grid-connected inverters in order to convert the solar energy into electricity. The second one is our data center facilities, where we provide infrastructure to power the data centers in a clean and efficient way. Site power facilities is regarding all telecom networks, being mobile or fixed networks. And with 5G coming, we also got a lot of challenge, and I've been working closely with the ITU to try to find ways to reduce the impact on the planet. And power, which is motive power. This is making efficient electronics, power conversion devices, and battery management system for electrical vehicles. And modular power is all the power supplies that we can use in our own equipments, being servers, being the switches, being the active antennas for 5G. To power a green digital world, we need to focus on the module high efficiency, from chips, components to modules and products. We need to take these modules to build systems which are very efficient as well. So we use digital management and intelligent operation and maintenance tools. And now we have all the synergies between the networks to have device edge cloud synergies, improving end-to-end resource utilizations and optimizing the energy efficiency. When we say bits manage watt, I mean, in an ideal world, if you have no traffic on the telecom or data centers, then you should have no power consumption. So basically, if you have 0 bits, you should have 0 watt. This is what we are working on, trying to make it in as close as possible. If you look at our business, we're striving to make the highest efficiency, power conversions inverters. And today we have a maximum efficiency of 99%, so getting close to 100%, which allow us to have 2% higher yields. 2%, it's a lot. So it's 2% more electricity, which being power from the solar panels. We also use artificial intelligence to have very efficient PV tracker controls. The idea is also to have a full view of what's going on also on the PV plants. So by having all these IoTs and being all connected, we can reduce operation and maintenance cost by 50%, being more efficient, spending less time on sites, and also by improving the inspections of the plant. The idea is, and we start to see that today, is that the solar power should not cost more than the thermal power. I mean, in the future, it probably will cost less. If we look at the telecom power, the site power, we're focusing on very high efficiency rectifiers, 98% efficiency. We're focusing on improving our cooling systems by promoting natural coolings. We focus on system high efficiency. The idea is to go from indoor to outdoor and eventually what we call blade sites. So you can see that the site energy efficiency, which is also defined by the ITUs, by one ITU standards, can go from around 60% with indoor sites, where the cooling is a big part of the consumptions, to roughly above 95% with blade power, which is a convection cooled units. So this is where we are working at. We are targeting to have more and more solar being used on the sites when we can, when it makes sense. And we're also trying to remove the gensets when it's possible, or at least to make them work at the highest efficiency points, using, again, high efficiency rectifiers, high efficiency lithium batteries, and smart control with the help of AI. And all this, system together with high efficiency components, then we can have a very high efficiently managed networks, which make that we're trying to reach our targets of 0 bit at 0 watt, or 0 watt at 0 bit. Data centers is also growing very fast. Many data centers are being built, the big ones, cloud data centers, some small ones, more and more edge computing data centers to be built as well with the coming of 5G. So we need to work also on efficient devices, efficient components. We're working on a very high efficiency modular UPS with efficiency above 97%. We're trying to reduce the footprint, to reduce the size also of the building we're going to build. We work on high efficiency cooling, trying to promote fan free cooling or wet film humidifier. Then from these components, we assemble all these components in a smart modular data centers where we have high efficiency precision air cooling systems. We're trying to integrate the complete power chain in one modules, including the transformers, the switchgears, the UPS, and distributions. And then what we call indirect evaporative cooling. This is a new modules that you can use to cool down your data center rooms. Use free cooling and indirect evaporative cooling. So it's basically water where you can put some fresh air, some air on it, some fans on it, which can refresh the rooms before you go to air conditioning if needed. And this is the last time. So we're focusing on lowering the PUE of the data centers. Again, the AI and AI cooling is the name we give to our AI-based algorithms to reduce, to optimize the cooling systems, to reduce the power consumption. So we can reduce the power consumption, the cooling system by 8 to 15% by your experience. So, if we want to conclude with the help of ICT technologies, power technologies, since 2013, we have been basically allowing to save power generations about 270 billion kilowatt hour, which is an equivalent of 170 million tons of CO2 emissions. And this is the equivalent to 220 million trees. So we do believe that we can, even if we increase the number of ICT equipment being connected, we can control the power consumptions. We can make this power consumption greener with the help of the other one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michel. That was really, really interesting, and it was a fantastic introduction to Huawei's technology innovation in different energy infrastructure applications, and especially your point on increasing solar power, the efficiency of solar power, but also the efficiency of other types of energy, telecom power, data center power, electrical vehicles. It's hugely important, and these innovations are, continue to be vital to how we can shift technology towards, meeting these principles, meeting the standards that we presented already. So thanks again for your presentation, and that wraps up just our first discussion on climate change, and we're going to move to the second part of our webinar now, which is technology for nature conservation. And there's increasing evidence that ICT solutions, such as mobile networks, smart terminals, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, can significantly improve the efficiency and effectiveness of natural resource management activities, particularly around the points that Daniel made, that Dr. Aguilar made, around the access to information to help make better decisions. And in this session, we invite our experts, practitioners, and scientists to share some of their perspectives and views on these principles and demonstrate some real kind of field level application of tech. So I'd like to firstly introduce Dr. Nirmal Jivan Shah from the Seychelles, from the Western Indian Ocean. So Nirmal is the CEO of Nature Seychelles. It's one of the leading environmental NGOs, certainly in Seychelles, but also in Africa and in the world. Nirmal himself has won several awards in environmental education, environmental conservation, and awareness raising. He's led some of the most inspiring conservation success stories, including rescuing critically endangered species of birds, saving turtles, restoring coral reefs. He's a senior member of IUCN's World Commission on Protected Areas, and his topic today is next-gen conservation. So welcome, Nirmal, and over to you.
Thank you, James, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Huawei, for helping to organize this. First, let me apologize that I was expecting to be streamed live, and just proves that we still have a bit of a digital divide between people and countries. I'm beaming from you. I'm beaming to you from the Seychelles, which is the only high-income country in Africa, but we still have low bandwidth. So I've been told that my my video presence is not good enough, so I'll be talking to this slide. So excuse me for that. Now, we know that this COVID-19 crisis is hollowing out biodiversity conservation as we know it. The traditional sources of funding are drying out. Financial concerns include the collapse of tourism, which many conservation organizations depend on heavily, especially in Africa and in small island states. We also have sharp and rapid decline in the value of trust funds and investments, uncertainty about the continuity of donor funding, and default by governments, again, many of whom are in Africa and which are already heavily indebted. We will not have money to keep staff or to buy equipment and materials. Volunteers, consultants, and international researchers will have difficulty in moving around because of new rules and concerns. And we are caught in the blowback of all of this. We must jettison baggage and move on. But where do we go and how do we do it? We must look for new kinds of support, learn new ways of doing things, and do more with less. The global megatrend is disruptive of frontier technologies, as we've heard the previous speakers say and describe. And this is probably the future of conservation as well. The Internet of Things, AI and machine learning, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and so forth should play key roles, I believe, in conservation. Traditional conservation of biodiversity will need to leapfrog into what I am calling e-conservation, a brave new world, but whose foundations are already built, again, as we've heard previously. Now, e-conservation must be the future. For example, working from home, as we've seen, is facilitated by apps like Zoom, like we're using today. But this is just the beginning. There will be more interactive virtual programs that will make remote attendance at meetings more acceptable and productive. This will hasten the demise of many physical international conferences, as well as national meetings. We will save on office rental, transport, time, and budget, and shrink our carbon footprint. Traditional money is becoming scarce right now in our region in any case. And I believe that cryptocurrency may find enormous traction. China is already shaping up to be the first major economy to launch digital money. Facebook and others are also working on their own digital coins. Another generic instrument is blockchain. And we must look at it seriously because it can be used for many purposes in conservation. It will be a keystone in any new conservation architecture. One example where blockchain is being used here in the Seychelles and in countries which are highly dependent on fish, and tuna in particular, is tracing fish from bait to plate. And tourism. As tourism to our protected areas and sites disappear, can we turn to live video streaming and ask people to pay for that? Some are already streaming live unscripted safaris with an expert game ranger who's the host in a vehicle on foot and using drones, balloons, rovers, and remote cams. This is happening in South Africa, for example. At some point, can we envisage our avatars strolling with a game ranger through a live stream in a national park, or zooming up the beach in a high-speed speedboat like the ones we use on Cousin Island's special reserve in the Seychelles? The challenge is to monetize these experiences. Inevitably, tech will reduce the workload and expenses, as has happened in commerce and industry. And so much is going on already. Tracking devices and other equipment can be made cheaply using 3D printing. Drones, including underwater ones, can survey our sites, and visual and acoustic monitors can inform us of illegal activity. Satellites are already apprising us of illegal fishing in our exclusive economic zones, particularly important for small island states which depend heavily on the blue economy. A portable lab, which I've just become aware of, called Gene, is able to extract, amplify, and sequence DNA even in the most remote field conditions. And there are so many other examples. So as we move into this new world, we need partnerships. We need better partnerships. We need partnerships for a better planet. A commonality which I've seen among many of the tools is that they were originally developed for other purposes. Conservationists must now move from being tech consumers to tech drivers and innovators. New tools must be developed for the new needs of conservation. And we need donors to quickly make the initial investments to catalyze the transition into e-conservation. We need global conservation organizations such as IUCN to seize this once-in-a-lifetime moment and bring donor, tech, and conservation communities together so the appropriate setup and tools are developed. And again, we welcome this particular conference and we thank IUCN and Huawei for facilitating it. We need institutions and people working in conservation to be capacity built, to be able to utilize new tech and to help develop e-conservation. If such actions don't occur fast enough, we will not be able to ensure that nature's infrastructure continues to deliver lasting and healthy solutions for people and the planet. Thank you very much. That's all from me. Back to you, James. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nirmal, for that presentation. It's an impressive forward-thinking concept that you bring. Traditional conservation really needs to leapfrog into e-conservation. And these digital technologies, should play the key roles in the next generation of how we deliver nature conservation. So in the interest of time, thanks again, Nirmal. I'd like to jump now to Roman Eiholzer, the CEO of the Perini Foundation. And Perini is a non-profit Swiss-based NGO fostering innovation technology that protects nature, environment, and people. Roman has a lot of field experience. He was formerly responsible for nature conservation and wildlife management in the canton of Fribourg in Switzerland, governing an area of more than 1,600 square kilometers. He's also worked with IUCN previously. So Roman, please take it away, keep it short, and hit us with your points.
Thank you very much, James. Can you see the screen? Did that work? Yes, here it comes. Okay, hello everybody. Hi, James. Thank you for the invitation. I was visiting, actually that's wrong, well, here it comes, visiting the Huanghe National Park, and this beautiful scenery you see, you can almost smell the coffee. But my son, he was looking at his iPhone. For him, it was normal to connect to his friends with his mobile iPhone, and which is the primary communication device because of their versatility and portability. However, poor network coverage in most parks restricts the use of mobile phones, and I'm very glad that this initiative with IUCN and Huawei and the promise to leave nobody behind will help us changing that in rural areas. Behind the scenery of the park, sensors are necessary to increase management effectiveness or simply to manage the park. With LTE coverage, we can have uninterrupted connection between vehicles and connect bandwidth heavy applications such as outdoor camera traps, automated surveillance, and even long-range drone operations and other cloud-based apps like gate operations, vehicle tracking in and out of the park areas, or apps used for research. With the Internet of Things, a new generation of smart sensors inside the park must be connected and can be used for simple tasks like energy management, natural resource protection, pollution control, disaster prevention, and many more. But how can we connect thousands of smart sensors in a park? Either we use LTE or we can use other emerging technologies like IoT and LoRaWAN. LoRaWAN stands for long range and has become the preferred technology for IoT networks. LoRaWAN is a low-power wireless network that spans over many square kilometers and uses battery-powered devices that can last for years. Smart sensors can send small data packages over LoRaWAN, like status updates and reports, or upon walking from an external trigger to give an alert, for example, after an intrusion. LoRaWAN will greatly increase connectivity in the park and allow to follow the developments in the park in real time. Let's take an example. A new LoRaWAN animal tracker, compared to traditional ones, would have reduced size and weight and does not need a large battery which can interfere with the animal movement. And because of its low consumption, the tracker might be functional for many years or even the entire lifespan of an animal, as there is no need to change the battery anymore and the sensors are cheap. But what happens if the tracked animal is out of reach? Until now, we just must wait until it gets closer again. But new technologies and increased connectivity in rural areas will solve that problem. Satellites can take over and also support data encryptions, for instance, to hide the position of the tracked animals to protect the animal against poachers. Today, internet access is delivered through few satellites and in high orbit, but the next generation of satellites is already launched. Companies like SpaceX, Kuiper, Amazon, or OneWeb, among others, started to launch hundreds of satellites into orbit to cover 95% of Earth's population and the potential to serve the so far unserved or underdeveloped rural areas over time. But there is a catch, as you need many, many more satellites to actually cover the whole area. Nevertheless, these new low orbit satellites are launched for IoT to allow global connectivity for the so-called machine net in the future. This new connectivity will allow new technologies like blockchain to be introduced in parks. Blockchain technology allows peer-to-peer values transfer at minimal cost and to trace these transactions on a global ledger. A park can offer superb and sustainable products and proof of origin on blockchain, where you validate the location of product and get additional information on production standards, transport routes, and the people behind the product, is a new feature delivered through blockchain technology and will allow a buyer to follow the product from the park all the way to his home, and people can verify the promises made with the purchase. Creating peer-to-peer business opportunities will increase the willingness to buy directly from the park, thus creating new revenue streams for parks and additional finances for conservation work. Real-time monitoring on blockchain also allows to track illegal poaching activities and using micropayments on blockchain. Can finance decentralized energy and water production and sell the products to the community at a low price. Trading excess energy and water will incentivize a responsible management strategy and lead to better usage of available resources. The world agreed to keep global warming below 2 degrees, and carbon markets are one of the tools to accomplish these goals, as heard earlier. A blockchain-powered platform for carbon offsetting can be implemented for carbon trade. China has been testing blockchain-based CO2 market platforms, and in 2020 is launching the first national market for CO2 trades based on blockchain. With 22,000 emitters, this CO2 market will be the biggest in the world. Protected areas can increase their management effectiveness through the IUCN Greenness Standard, and this traceable CO2 sink can be sold in a global CO2 market, valorizing the work from park management and increasing revenues for the park. Using blockchain technology, we can all directly contribute for a better planet. That was it, a little bit too fast, but anyway, it's my pleasure. Back to you.
Many thanks, Roman. It wasn't too fast. That was absolutely on time and a very, very key message. I really like the real-time examples and the way you brought that back also to your experiences in the park and how they stay connected and some of the challenges in maintaining this connectivity. I think one of the key points that you made, I'd like to just quickly reflect on, is how we can use these technologies to really increase the effectiveness and provide better support. I think that this connection between nature conservation, ICT, financing is really something that if we want to scale up our efforts, we need to rethink, as Nirmal said as well. And I think this brings us really nicely to our next presenter, Mr. Topher White from Rainforest Connection. Because Topher's presentation is about the innovative Forest Guardians, which is a collaboration between the Rainforest Connection and Huawei's TECH4ALL program. Rainforest Connection is a US-based non-profit tech startup at the cutting edge of conservation technology. And Mr. Topher White, the founder and CEO, based in the Americas, is up very early now to show us how ICT solutions enable protection of forests and animals from illegal logging and poaching. And this is the type of technology that we need to really focus on and try and scale up for a better planet. So over to you, Topher.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here and to be able to talk about this. I'm just going to dive right into it. These are some amazing talks to follow. But let's talk about illegal logging, first of all. So first of all, we can sort of look at illegal logging and say that up to 90%, between 50 and 90%, according to Interpol, of logging globally is illegal. And that's actually a terrible statistic, but it's also an opportunity for us to do something about it. Because if it's illegal, there's actually a mandate to stop it using people who are already there. And so if you look at illegal logging, it's not actually always the only activity that leads to the wholesale destruction of the forest, but it is one of these activities that's so profitable in most of these places that they will cut a road through the forest to extract the most valuable woods. And once that road is there, then what you see is the legal logging will end, but there'll be other activities that come in and lead to the wholesale destruction of it. And again, if that is up to 90% of the logging taking place is illegal, you can really take a big chunk out of the wholesale destruction of the forest. So how do we actually get to stopping illegal logging? This is a big and complex subject, but here's one particular solution that we take pretty seriously. It's using IoT and technology. The very moment that a chainsaw goes off in the forest, the sound is picked up by a device like this in the trees, who sends an alert to local rangers who can jump on their motorcycles and get out there and actually stop the logging on the spot. This again is a very high realistic rendition of exactly how it happens in the forest. But this, of course, relies upon a device, as we've been heard in these last couple talks, devices up in trees This is what we call a rainforest guardian. This is one as it actually sits up on a tree. You can see it uses solar panels, which allows it to continually recharge itself and therefore able to transmit data in real time up to the cloud all the times over the increasingly very good cell phone networks that are put up by Huawei and their partners in the field. So we aren't required to use additional sort of proprietary open networks. We're able to use ones that are sort of already there out in the outskirts of the forest. And here's an idea. Basically, the sounds of chainsaws, these are running 24/7, the Guardians are. And so the detection of chainsaws automatically is a very important part. So this becomes the intersection of IoT, cell phone service, and the connectivity that's there, as well as the using AI to detect chainsaws, which we'll get to. And of course, you're not going to put these everywhere in the forest. You're going to put them in the outskirts, the places where you're most likely to have not only logging, but also cell phone networks. And so that's how we put them up. We put them on the outskirts or the periphery of a forest. And based on this, you have one of these devices, one of these guardians, as we call them, which is able to then hear sounds. One of the powerful things about sound is that you can hear it kilometers away, which means just one of these devices up in the right place can hear sounds of chainsaws 3 kilometers away. And speaking to the idea of climate change, that's up to 15,000 tons of CO2 is contained in that amount of forest. So in fact, just protecting those 3 kilometers with the right partners and the right technology can lead to the equivalent of 3,000 cars off the road. It's really a very outsized way to have some impact. And that's really what we're trying to do. How can we build a partnership with local telecoms, local people on the ground, and technology around the world to enable that sort of outsized impact? So we've been doing this for a while, but it turns out that a small startup like us can only be good at a certain number of things. We had built these devices and we're using cell phone networks. And so we teamed up with Huawei beginning in 2019 to begin to both improve the way that we could look at our own data and pull something out of it. And using Huawei's model arts, we're able to do just that. So here's an example. Hopefully you guys can hear the chainsaws. Yeah. This is a chainsaw at a couple hundred meters away. Yep. Certainly not that hard to detect or to actually find within the sounds of the forest. So this is the AI that we could sort of take on. But teaming up with Huawei, we were able to get much better at this. So what if you want to hear a chainsaw that's kilometers away, and that's where you end up having a detection like this. And so the real question is how good can you actually hear this chainsaw? Were this actually to play, you wouldn't be able to hear it at all. You can see the difference in the oh, here we are. We're gonna head back for a second. 1 second here. I'm gonna head back here. Oh no. Okay. Trying back again. Thanks for your patience, you guys. All right. Skipping through here to the next ones. Thanks for your patience on getting these slides up. You've seen these slides before. But again, the idea is that we can, in fact, hear the chainsaw detections at a much greater distance away. And this is, again, what you heard a minute ago. And with the detections, we're able to, in fact, hear very, very quiet ones. So I'm not sure if you're able to hear this chainsaw. It's very faint, but this again is at about 1.5 kilometers away. Really an amazing distance to be picking up the sound. And this, what this looks like in the field after this happens is that we're sending alerts to local partners. In this case, it's the indigenous tribe in Brazil, and you have having a situation like this. Where even though it was too late to actually stop that truck from being full of wood, at the end of that path was an entire group of indigenous warriors who were protecting this land in a place where there is no law enforcement. They were able to seize the truck, seize the assets, arrest the people. And that just goes to show how one of these people in the forest, one of these local communities with the right technology, the right infrastructure, and the right partners can have a very, very outsized impact. This guy can have the effect upon the equivalent of taking tens of thousands of cars off the road just from protecting their own backyard. So we've taken this project all over the world with the help of Huawei and others. Just 14 countries already in 5 continents, 3,300 square kilometers of forest protected, which again has an outsized impact, but that's still just very small. And it's not just about catching loggers. We also realized that every single one of these guardians, these devices, can be streaming audio up into the cloud. You can actually hear, anyone can tune in and grab these apps from the Play Store or App Store and actually listen live to the sounds of the forest, because we're streaming this to the cloud. And we highly encourage people to do that. But this additionally opens up a whole new frontier that Huawei is helping us to tap into, which is that these sounds are not just there for detecting threats. What if you had a situation like this, where through these live streams, you can begin to pick out a very precise, different correlation of species to each other. This is the science of bioacoustics. And in doing so, what we actually see is that you cannot just, this is one thing to do this over a minute, 2 minutes. This is something that can be done. But doing it over, not just minutes, but hours, months, years of audio allows you to take this very precise understanding of what's happening there and stretch it out to the point of view that can be, to a scale of time that can be actually affected by climate change, and see the effects on these ecosystems over time. We're really excited about this. We hope it can turn ecology and biology into almost a big data challenge that only a company like Huawei and their partners can take on. And in fact, that's something that they've been very interested in helping us do. We worked with them already in Costa Rica to be able to improve a detection for spider monkeys, similar to what you just saw, already up to really up into the high 80s and 90s. Can we detect spider monkeys very effectively? And that's a video that you saw earlier on. So again, also with their help, they've not just been helping us on the tech side, they're very committed to getting their local sort of domestic offices of Huawei to help us expand into these countries. There's 5 new regions that we're expanding into entirely thanks to them. Philippines, within Africa, South America, Europe, these are all places where we need to expand. And based upon that, we expect our impact over the next year, even with the delays and the serious issues in conservation that we're seeing with COVID-19, we hope to triple our impact in the next year, year and a half or so. And again, it's not just about the amount of forest, the area we can protect. It's about the species that are within it. It's about the carbon that can be retained within it. And it's also about what you just saw, to be able to record the audio, put it into a live database online, and then almost have this living audio arc of what's happening in these wild places to be studied by scientists and data scientists all together. And in order to facilitate that, we're building what we call the Acoustic Explorer platform. This that you're hearing now is a platform enabled through Huawei's Model Arts to be able to enable the detection of whales. These are actually orca whales coming out of the ocean. And so even though what you're seeing here, what you saw earlier was largely about putting devices up in trees, this platform that's enabled, it pulls in the audio, organizes it, feeds it into Model Arts for the training of species detection, and then brings it back into an interface like this. What you're really able to do is build a hub for conservationists, ecologists, data scientists, and really just enthusiasts, people who love nature, to engage with and help protect nature on the whole. And that's really what we're trying to do in collaboration with this great partnership. Thanks, Scott. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Topher. That was fascinating. And the applications that you've just touched upon, from up in the canopy to down under the ocean, and all sorts of opportunities arise from this type of innovation. So thank you very, very much. And we at IUCN, we're a global union. We have 1,400 members. We're working, with some of the 250,000 protected and conserved areas worldwide. And that's the type of scale where we, if we can see ICT and technology helping bring this type of solution at that type of scale, with the, also the ability to analyze better and to, have big data as well to help make decisions, then that would be fantastic. And so thanks again very much. And we hope to stay in touch with you and see how we can use some of your innovations in, with our members' work. Much related to this, I'd like to now introduce Professor Fang Limin from the National Forestry and Grassland Administration, Amur Tiger and Amur Leopard Monitoring and Research Center. Professor Fang is from Beijing Normal University. He's a young Chinese biologist. Like most young people, he's connected all the time. But unlike other young people, Professor Fang is usually connected with tigers. And today he's here to share some exciting practices taking place in China and related to the creation of the new tiger and leopard observation network. So over to you, Professor Feng.
Thank you, James. Today, I'd like to tell a story about the Protect China Big Cat. This is a case study in Northeast Tiger and Leopard National Park. Now, we are the Anthropocene. We face the many challenges in our planet. For example, one of the biggest challenges is the biodiversity loss. For example, as a result of the recent study, more than 77% of the large carnivore population in the world continue to decline, and the trophic is downgrading globally to affect ecosystem function seriously. And in response to this challenge, China is initiating the eco-civilization and Beautiful China. We are developing the national park system in next decade. National park will protect millions square kilometer natural landscape and endangered species habitat, including tiger, the king of the forest. We know that tiger is the pride of the Asia. It is the important culture symbol in China. Every Chinese knows the story of the red painting, Wu Song, an ancient warrior fight with a tiger. In fact, unfortunately, the big cat tiger have lost their 95% habitat and population in last century. They have become endangered species. The recent IUCN assessment, total of the world tiger population less than 5,000. And the other big cat, leopard also face the same situation. China plans to recover the world population of the two big cats. And in Northeast China, it is a temporary mixed forest. And this landscape is a real land of big cat. A century ago, Northeast China is the home of armored tiger, the biggest cat in the planet. Today, about 500 armored tigers still survived in this landscape. And at least then 100 armored leopard, the rarest big cat in the world, living with armored tiger. In 2015, under the guide and supported by the National Forest and Grassland Administration and the Jilin Province government, our team, Beijing Normal University team, submitted as a proposal to recovering tiger and leopard in China to the central government. In 2017, Chinese government start to set up the Northeast Tiger and Leopard National Park. Total area of this national park reached about 15,000 square kilometers, 70% larger than Yellowstone. We will recover a variable tiger leopard population in the national park and then let them return their most historical range step by step. Can the new park save Chinese big cat? For answer this question, for guiding the return of the king of forest, we have developed an innovative system to support the monitoring and management of the national park. My ground is this system. From this system, now I'm sitting in the headquarters of a resource center, and I can monitor what happened in the forest with real time. This system has combined various technologies of ICT, such as integrated 4G or 5G technology, internet, automatic monitoring, and real-time transmission device and sensor, combined satellite, drone, AI, cloud computing, and big data analysis to support the monitoring and management of this national park. Now, in this national park, the integrated cable and wireless network covered the whole region. We use Huawei signal tower, and this signal can large-scale coverage and high-speed transmission and high cyber security with the local service. And we develop innovative real-time transmission device to natural resource, include biodiversity, wildlife, water, soil, weather, and automatic monitoring sensor to human activity, fire control. And we also develop the multifunctional real-time communication petrol device to support the ranger go to the forest. Now, when the ranger into the forest or national park, they know where it is, what happened around them, and if the manager in the headquarters know where it is, the ranger, what happened around the ranger. So this system can get very big data every day, every minute. So we use the AI-based information management system to analyze this data. For example, we use AI to identify that every wildlife, every species we collect. Like we also use AI, and Huawei help us to use AI to analyze every individual of tiger. We can identify the tiger individual. So next, we like to show some video real time with real time transmission video to all of you. Every individual, we know the range, we know the interaction between tiger and the prey. And now in this national park, now we set up more than 30,000 sensors in the forest. Every day we can collect millions of data from the forest. This video shows the wildlife video just in this node, just a few hours ago. Now we're into the new era of natural conservation. We need to use the big data and the knowledge of interdisciplinary to solve our problem in the nature. Thank you. Welcome visit Northeast Tiger and Leopard National Park.
Thank you so much, Professor Feng. That's fascinating. And to see live wildlife while we're all connected on this webinar, to know that those creatures are there, they're living, they're existing, is so powerful. And I think this comes back to some of the other messages that Topher and Nirmal and Roman presented, that, you know, using this technology, we can really, you know, have this connection, and how we can use the technology then to make better decisions, to scale up our actions, and to really, you know, connect all our efforts across more and more places with more and more square kilometers is really powerful. So thank you so much. And we all saw the invite there to visit your China area, the Tiger area. Well, at least for now, please share the links so that we can at least log in and visit virtually. And that's just a note to everybody that the webinar will be available to you, and the contacts of everybody will be available to you after. I'd like now, with the time, this is so interesting. We have gone over our official time, but we're gonna carry on. Everybody's still online and connected. So we're going to go into a panel discussion now. And, you know, clearly technologies have so many applications for making our environment better, safer, and protected for all of us, the benefit of all of us. And we need to get these principles around access, around connectivity, and around good science-based decision-making using technology to bring them to bear. So I'd like to just invite all our speakers who are still online. I'm going to ask two questions. The first question will be related to the climate change, and the second question will be related more to the nature conservation. And please just give a very, very quick fire answer, and then we'll move on to the next one. I will ask you to respond, so don't all jump in at once, or don't all stay quiet. So I will pick you. So for the nature conservation, we'll come on to that, but I'd like to start with the climate. And the question is, and I'm going to start with Dr. Jamousi. In your opinion, how can we use technology to significantly reduce carbon emissions from industry? And please, could you just think of one industry as an example?
Okay, thank you. Transportation. Transportation today is estimated to use about 23% of the global carbon emission. And during this COVID-19, and the fact that we had to stay home, work from home, learn from home, transact money from home, it is a very good demonstration and proof that much can be done through information and communication technologies by staying from home and reducing the need to move and to travel, such as this webinar today. We are connected throughout the world. We are sharing information in real time with text, video, audio, live interaction. So I think the use of ICT and digital technologies can reduce significantly the emission of the transportation sector by avoidance.
Thanks, Dr. Jamousi. And the same question then to Daniel. Daniel, which industry would you choose, and how can technology help that industry significantly reduce carbon emissions?
I actually was going to say I had the same example to say. So I'm going to make the point. I've got another one, but I'll make that point first. That, you know, a lot of people, had we not been kind of forced into this situation, would have said it's not possible for me to do my job from home. And we found out it is actually possible. It's relatively straightforward for large industries around the world. I think, and everyone now, from school children through to grandparents, are now quite familiar with Zoom, with Microsoft Teams, you know, with WebEx, whatever it might be. There's so many different options of that technology. And I think once the situation comes back to a more sort of what people are used to, a lot of that going on a flight, you know, a 2-hour flight for a 1-hour meeting is just going to be pointless. There's no need for it at all. So I think, yeah, I'd echo what Bilal said. The one slight addition I'd say is maybe on the freight. kind of that side of transportation, using the big data, monitoring telemetry of deliveries and routes for shipping and optimization of that. A lot of vehicles drive around empty, and that's obviously ridiculous when they could just plan the routes better, have different collaboration between organizations to ensure that if there are vehicles on the road or in shipping or whatever it is, they're not running empty. They can collaborate to make sure they're optimized at all times. So I think there's a couple of applications there from the transport side.
Thanks very much, Daniel. And the same question to Michelle. Which industry and how can that industry use technology to significantly reduce carbon emissions?
I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to say telecom industry, right?
Wow,
so now
surprise.
Telecom industry, I think we can, with the use of high efficiency power conversion and cooling system, we can minimize the impact on CO2 emissions. We can use convection and cooled outdoor blade power that I just briefly introduced to you before, which can also help to reach a site efficiency more than 95%. We can try to remove the gensets, the fuel consumptions, which are and also very polluting, and that we can do it by having AI built into our system and the use of high efficiency and smart lithium-ion batteries. Of course, adding solar. I think adding solar is also something that everyone is looking at right now regarding the telecom operators, or buying green energy, as you mentioned before. And of course, implementing AI-based network management systems. So you avoid to travel to site too often, so you can reduce your traveling time and use of your car, and of course, this will have an impact on the planet. So yeah, this is what I will say regarding telecom.
Thanks very much, Michelle. That's great examples, and interesting that two went for the transport industry, and I think that's really relevant to where we are today. I'm going to jump to the second section on nature conservation. And the question that we've received and we've prepared is, in your points of view, how can the ICT sector, how can technology sector help scale up the use of such technology for nature conservation to achieve a bigger impact, help us meet global targets? So really what I'd like to hear from you is, how can we use technology to have a bigger impact, to scale up our nature conservation efforts? And I'm going to start with Nirmal.
Yeah, thank you. I think that big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning are very important in nature conservation, as we all know, with large sets of data from all over the world, but also data gaps. And it's quite impossible for us as scientists and as managers to be able to look at all this stuff and try to make sense of it. I mean, like, for example, we are, as many people know, my organization has one of the largest coral reef restoration programs in the world. So we would like to collaborate with others to look at, through ICT, what's happening in the water, the temperatures, the salinity, and so forth, and try to look for optimal conditions. But beyond ICT as well, to look at other technologies like gene technology to move to the next level of the coral reef. We want to assist the evolution of coral reef and try to build actually a better coral reef with various technologies such as gene technologies.
Fascinating. Yeah, this is the opportunities are limitless. So I think really once you get into, especially in the oceans, we think we know a lot about our planet, and we don't, but the oceans, there's so much more to learn. And I think, as you say, technology could be one way to really, counter the threats and really scale up what we do know and use that knowledge productively. Over to Roman, please. Roman, in your view, how can technology help scale up our nature conservation efforts?
Thank you, James. So in my opinion, connected parks is a huge issue. And I was very pleased to hear that Mr. Feng already connected 30,000 sensors in one single area. So that's impressive. I think that's the future. And if you look at our region, our parks, then having these sensors installed and getting the information not only inside the park to the headquarters, but globally accessible, that's a big issue. The next step, and in my opinion, the over next step, because we work mainly with blockchain with the Perini Foundation, is actually not only to get the information out, but also to connect it to value. Which means at this moment in time, you know that better than I do, James, at this moment in time, green list standard is scaling up. And these areas are with increase, well, who are adapting a green list standard will increase their management effectiveness. And this management effectiveness can be measured in CO2 credits. And these CO2 credits could be sold over a blockchain carbon market. So, but the information has to be there over the sensors and the technology, which can link the information with the value. Blockchain technology is going to be the next step.
Thank you, Roman. And yes, indeed, we do have a standard and certification system at IUCN that is trying to promote and recognize effectively managed and well-governed nature conservation parks. And your point also speaks to Topher in his presentation about, again, you know, how you can really connect information to help make these good decisions. And that gives the question to Topher directly. How do you feel technology, and you've given a great example already, but how can we scale up what you're doing? How can you take your innovation and these applications and the ideas you have and make them truly global?
Well, so I think connectivity is a huge, huge part of it, right? And so everyone here is pretty much plugged into that. The extent to which we can connect not just parks, but the wilder and wilder places that are there. We have to start with parks, and, you know, heads come from populated areas to the rest. But additionally, I think it's also about the change of mentality. So what we're seeing now is with the ability to get more data out of the field into these cloud situations, we're able to start looking at the natural world as the next frontier of AI, of blockchain, of entertainment almost in a certain sense. Like, how can we use this data coming out of the world to get people excited and interested in it? It's almost like you look at AI and the rest is sort of reaching this point of diminishing returns when it comes to what you can extract from human data. Everyone's going to keep trying. But if you look to nature as the next frontier of what's like, it's almost a blue ocean of what you can accomplish. And so it's really, really exciting. It's almost like the beginning, within the microscope was invented. You know, we never saw this invisible world, but with bioacoustics and the data that's there, there's a whole new frontier in front of us. And if we can get ICT interested in that and the whole world interested in that, it will lead to a whole lot more.
Thanks very much. So it's like turning the telescope around and really like saying, wow, you know, look at the sky is the limit of what we could do.
Absolutely.
And, you know, across to the scale, I'd like to bring in Professor Feng as well, because you're already China. For many of us, China means scale. When we think of China, we think of scale, but you are scaling up within China, and I think what you have to offer could help cats and large carnivores all over the world. So please, what's your opinion, Professor Feng?
We know now human can explore space, explore Mars, but we don't let the scientists or conservationists to use a binocular to research and protect the wildlife in remote area. We don't let the ranger walk by the foot to choose the poacher in the vehicle. So we need help the protect area to use the new technology, new tools to improve our management. And to the conservation biologist, and we need to cooperate with the engineer, with the technology company like Huawei, like for example in our solution in national park, and we cooperate with the engineer, cooperate with the other. We use the disciplinary knowledge. And I think our solution in the national park is successful. Is successful now, and we think we can apply this model, this solution, in the other country, in the other tiger range, to help the local range, local government to protect the larger area, the remote area. This is my opinion.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Feng.
Okay,
really important points. Yes, it's about scaling up, and you really do have a very successful program, and we can still see the tigers running around behind you. It's so nice. I'd like to give now, as we close this webinar, the final overview, not just a question, but I'd just like Dr. Gretel Aguilar, the Acting Director General of IUCN, to give us some final thoughts as we close. Gretel, please turn on your video as well.
Thank you, James. Well, let me first of all give a big thanks to all of you. I used to watch a program called The Blue Planet. And when I was a child, it always amazed me because I could see it through television. And I could see different parts of the world. And what you have been presenting today, it reminds me the power of many seeing nature. It reminds me the power of technology. It reminds me the opportunity of bringing technology to communities, to women. Today, in many different meetings and when I talk to people, many are talking about transformative change. And I think that this webinar is probably the closest to transformative change. Many people don't understand what is transformative change, but actually transformative change is making things different. It's exactly that. It's recognizing that where we are today in terms of nature conservation and in terms of achieving the sustainable development, it's not good enough, and that we need to do things differently. And I see this technology as an incredible source of transformational change. I imagine, people seeing things like the presentation of Tupperware, or the presentation of many of you, of Fen Lingmin. I can imagine kids seeing your presentations at schools. I can imagine women being connected, talking about the conservation efforts and what they do and sharing from one corner of the planet to another corner of the planet. So for me, technology can change completely the way we work, can be an immense source of transformational change. And we must embrace it. We must embrace it with all our heart. We must embrace it as a tool that we can use in a positive way. We have biggest challenges, such as in agriculture, how to feed a world that is growing and growing and growing, and at the same time conserve natural resources that we depend on. And here, technology can also play an incredible role. And by being connected, by not only touching the minds of people, but also touching the hearts of people, I think that we can really achieve transformational change. The images that I saw in some of the videos and in PowerPoints that you presented will touch the hearts of people. Those tigers, I cannot imagine how those tigers will not make people think if we want to conserve them. I mean, we have to. They are part of our planet and they should not disappear. But also the opportunity to give these tools, to communities is an immense opportunity. Let me, just say that also technology can not only bring accessibility, to this knowledge and these why not emotions, but it also gives credibility to the work we do. Because it's not the same to tell a person a story than to see it. And to see it in a telephone, can you imagine? If we can wake up, not even us, that I believe that the ones who are connected today, we are believers. But let's say people that are not really, working or thinking about natural resources conservation and technology, but once they have the access that is right there in their hands, I think that we have the possibility to change this planet. So connectivity, accessibility, and also accountability, because we, as many of you mentioned it, we will see how we can take actions or not. And that is accountability. It's not just talking about politics. It's not just having a law in a paper. It's watching, seeing, and taking action and being a voice in today's efforts to conserve nature and achieve sustainable development. So let me just finish by thanking all of you. I was not planning to stay for the whole webinar, but really I could not disconnect. It has been really a very incredible experience to be with all of you. I think that technology is the future in a big way, and we should embrace it, and we should include youth. I'm very happy to see the younger generation with us. I mean, this planet is in your hands, and I'm glad that you're thinking differently. So thank you very much, and over to you, James.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aguilar. That's really, really kind of you to stay and to give us that really emotional summary. And I'd like to thank all the speakers. The presentations were so rich and so much, thought-provoking ideas and demonstration of what you're all doing. I'd like to thank Huawei for making all this happen, for the technology, and for engaging all of you, and especially to thank all of you who are logged in and listening. And I'd just like to reiterate that the contact details are available, and that this webinar will be available as well to download and to replay and to share widely as well. So on behalf of IUCN, on behalf of Huawei, and on behalf of all of the participants, we'd like to thank you all for joining, and wish you a prosperous, strong, and healthy World Environment Day, and for the rest of this year. So thank you very much.